Welcome to this week's iClass given by Rabbi Mendy Loewenthal from Chabad of South Kensington. In this week's Torah portion, we read about the prophet Balaam. The story is memorable and it includes Balaam trying to curse the Jewish people, a talking donkey, 7 sacrifices, a king called Balak who repeatedly gets angry at the prophet Balaam, and ends up in Balaam blessing the Jewish people several times. Some of the blessings sound poetic and others sound cryptic. One of the blessings even talks about the Mashiach, may he come speedily. As you can imagine, there is an immense amount of literature discussing the blessings, including bits of Talmud, Midrash, Zohar, early commentators, later commentators. And today, we will look at a half a verse which kind of makes up one blessing. We'll try to break down the verse, explore its mystical meaning, and then bring it together again for a practical message. Okay. So Balaam is standing on the mountain. He intends on cursing the Jewish people, but because he is a prophet, he knows that he will only say what Hashem tells him to say. And this is what he says. This is our half a verse. Mi mane afar Yaakov umispar et rova Yisrael. Who counted the dust of Jacob and the number of the rova of Israel? Now this sounds like a very blessing-like blessing. Who counted the dust? What's dust? What does dust mean? What kind of blessing is who counted dust? Okay, so who counted the dust of Jacob? What does Jacob have to do with the dust? And then we move on to the second half of the verse. We have the number of the rova of Israel. In my English Torah, it translates the word rova as the number of the seed of Israel. So it's a kind of sarcastic statement or blessing. Who counted, i.e., it is not possible to count. So it's not possible to count the dust of Jacob, and it's also not possible to count the number of the seed of Israel. Rova is the word for seed. So on a simplistic level, it's saying that the Jewish people cannot be counted, and apparently the Jewish people are referred to as both the dust of Jacob and the seed of Israel. And interestingly, when we use the noun dust, the Torah describes it with the adjective who counted, i.e. it cannot be counted. And when using the noun rova, or the seed, the Torah describes it with the adjective number, i.e. it technically can be counted. It's also notable that there are different expressions used to describe the numerousness of the Jewish people. Sometimes we say as many as the stars of the sky, or as the sand of the sea. Over here the verse says, Mi mane afar Yaakov. It's the dust of Jacob, not sand, not stars. Okay, fine. So that's the facts. Now we move along onto the mystical. The book Lekkutei Torah from Rabbi Shneur Zalman, the author of the Tanya, studies this blessing on a deeper level. We'll look at part of this discourse and we divide it into 4 parts. Number 1, we have Balaam, the content, the actual content of the blessing. Then we will discuss a verse in Isaiah to explain the word rova with the 4 steps of creation. And then we will talk about Genesis, how Adam names the animals, and the discussion of man's unique place in creation and his purpose. And then we will bring this all back together to Balaam's blessing. And we have a little flowchart at the bottom right-hand corner to mark our progress. Okay, so here we go. First, let's break the verse down into 2 parts. Number 1, Mi mane afar Yaakov, or mispar et rova Yisrael. Who counted the dust of Jacob and the number of the rova of Israel? Now, the word rova can mean seed, like we said, but it can also mean 4, or the 4th. You cannot count the 4th of Israel. The 4, or the 4th of Israel, is so precious that it cannot be counted. The question is, what is this 4? What's the 4th? Why is it so special that it cannot be counted? Okay, so we go to Isaiah chapter 43, verse 7. Hashem is describing how everything was created for His glory. And it's interesting that to describe creation, the verse says created, and then, it doesn't stop there, then it goes, and I formed, and then I made him. In Hebrew, the words are barati, creation, yatzarti, formation, and then af, asiti, I made him. The Kabbalah describes the creation as a 4-step process. Number 1, you have pre-creation. You've got pre-barati. Number 2, you've got the formless existence. It's just a hulk of mass. And number 3, you form the existence. And then 4, you put the existence into action. Asiti. In other words, there is pre-thought. I haven't thought about doing it. Then I think about doing it. Number 3, I decide how I will do it. I speak about it. I make the idea real. And then number 4, I do it. Thought, speech, and action. Now the difference between thought and speech, or creation and formation, is that thought is internal and speech is external. Thought is one. In my mind, everything fits together. In Hashem, or in our source, we are all one. Once we come out to words, we become fragmented. Because words by definition are made up of groups of letters which form words which are all fragmented, finite. When we read the morning prayer, Baruch She'amar, we are contemplating and connecting to this deeper level of Hashem, the one that spoke. Baruch She'amar, blessed be He who spoke and the world came into being. Once Hashem spoke, the world was no longer an internal celestial level. Once Hashem spoke, the world became external, something other than Hashem. It came into being. So thought is 1 and speech is 2. Pre-thought is the subconsciousness, our hidden drive that pushes us to do things. Okay, at this point we'll move on to talk about Adam and his experience in naming all the animals. Vayikra ha'adam shemot lechol ha'behema u'liof ha'shemayim, etc. And man named all the cattle and the fowl of the heavens, etc. But for man he did not find a helpmate opposite him. The Ramban Nachmanides, one of the early commentators on the Torah, he explains, he says, imagine lots and lots of animals. Some are male and some are female. Now how should we know which male goes to which female? All the animals came to Adam. He thought deeply about the nature of each one. And through that he was able to prescribe which male went to which female. Now in this process he was hoping that he would find his own female, his own mate as well. In the eyes of Chassidut, the Hebrew name describes what something really is. Adam was able to see the source of each animal in Hashem's mind, so to speak. He was able to see the soul of each animal and was therefore able to describe what each animal really was. Hence, he gave them their names and he found them their partners. Now the reason why he was not able to find his own name or his own mate was because man comes from somewhere deeper. Just to go back to the slide, all creation comes from thought, which is number 2. And Hashem creates with his speech, which is number 3. And then man is sourced in the subconscious, the af, the atzilut, number 1, the pre-creation. Now it's interesting to note that when you look closely at the verse in Isaiah, the subconscious level is hinted to in the word af, in English ye. One would expect that the 4 worlds, or the 4 steps of creation, would be set in order. The word af, or ye, should come before the words I created. But when you look at it, what is the word af, which is the deepest subconscious level, doing next to the lowest level I made him? And in practical terms, we can ask this question: if man comes from such a deep, lofty subconscious source, then what are we doing in this low, fragmented, and potentially evil world? Now the answer is that because here in this world we can do a mitzvah. By doing a mitzvah we connect to the subconscious, to the deepest level of Hashem. Okay, so let's take this back to Balaam's blessing. Who counted the dust of Jacob and the number of the Rova of Israel? We'll do the second part of the verse first. Rova means 4, the 4th world, the world of action in which we can do mitzvah. Balaam is saying, Mi mana, who can count? I.e., you cannot count. At Mispar Rova Yisrael, the Rova, the mitzvot, are so valuable that they cannot be counted. So Balaam is saying that the mitzvot that the Jewish people do are the most powerful, phenomenal, unstoppable force. But he says Mispar Rova Yisrael, the number of Rova of Israel. The number means that although mitzvot cannot be counted, they are still a number. They are still limited in some way. Mitzvot are like sand. There's a lot of sand, it's unlimited. But sand is still finite. One can only light Shabbat candles at a specific time. If done at another time, they don't count. Mitzvot, although they are infinite, they have some limitations. Also, another thing, mispar, number. This refers to the finite world, and our goal is to bring the Rova Yisrael, the infinite mitzvot of the Jewish people, into the mispar, into the finite world. Okay, beautiful. Now let's go back to the first part of the verse. Mi mane afar. Afar is the dust. Dust makes up a clump of earth. It's not possible to count the earth. The Torah is earth. Now, Torah study is equal to all mitzvot. And even though we don't have a temple today, when we study the Torah that talks about sacrifices, Hashem considers it as if we have done them. So Balaam is blessing the Jewish people by saying that our dust, Torah, and Rova, the mitzvot, he's saying, mi mana, that they are infinite. You cannot count them. And although the Torah is in a way more infinite than mitzvot, we still need to have both. Shabbat Shalom.